Everyone, everybody, welcome back to another episode. I'm Dante, also known as Mecca Don, the Don Mecca. Some may call me Rick James. Why? Because I'm cold-blooded. Some may call me Coach, but if you know, you do know. Folks, I think you guys are starting to get this. What am I talking about? The age of cancel culture judged by the court of public opinion. And I will be careful with my words, but just in case, let me say that again. I will be careful with my words. But just in case I drop a noun, an adjective, an expletive, a pronoun that may be out of place, please don't hold me to it. I'm just here to pod. In true heDONiζm fashion, I always like to start out with gratitude. So it is with yet again a broken heart that I report the loss of yet another unsung hero. This gentleman was an actor. He was a true thespian. He acted well up to the very last days of his life. And as it was reported, he did pass in peace. The circumstances or the causes are not my concern, but it is important to me that I do pay homage to the legend and now the late Louis Gossett Jr. Louis Gossett Jr. had a most memorable role for me is when I started to really dig and dive into cinema. And that was the role that he played of Gunnery Sergeant Foley in the movie Officer and a Gentleman. See, it was rare back in the early 80s that you had a man of color, that being a black man, that was breaking down the character of a white man on film. The movie had its intent and the movie had its purpose. Yet the gunny sergeant was trying to make candidate to be Officer Mayo. He was trying to break him. And he was perfect at that role. Mayonnaise. But he owned that role so much that it played an influential role on my life when it came to being a United States sailor. Just seeing things of an intricate, introspect, detailed of those that served in the armed forces. Louis Gossett Jr., a Brooklyn native, that Brooklyn boy, Coney Island to be exact. But at this moment in time, I have to say it is with heavy heart that we are without one of the greats. And I have to say shout out to Tyler Perry. Whatever your means or reason is to support or not support Tyler Perry, that's on you. But I am a supporter of Tyler Perry. That does not mean I am a fan of each and every movie, but I do like how Tyler Perry gets down when it comes to creating positions, being an original, doing things, swimming upstream, doing it in that true fashion. Now, is he perfect? I don't know. I don't know Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry personal. But one thing that I have seen is the man is about good intentions. What we don't know, we don't know. Why am I saying that? Hold that thought. We'll get to it a little bit later. During the week, ladies and gentlemen, there was a tragedy that happened in the Baltimore harbor or the Baltimore area. For those that did not hear or for those that was not paying attention to news media, there was a cargo vessel that was en route towards a bridge. And because of a major mechanical malfunction, this vessel was uncontrollable and could not stop. And it was alleged that it collapsed into the bridge. But I'll have to say by fact, that was a crash. And the severity of the situation was it came with multiple fatalities. People lost their lives. Baltimore, you're in our thoughts and you're in our prayers. Can you imagine the tragedy? Those are like two of my worst nightmares when it comes to thought-provoking tragedies. And yet this was one of them. One being, have you ever driven? And for those of you up top, you know. Driving through the Holland Tunnel and imagining as you're driving through water imploding as you're driving through. And you always ask yourself, what would I do if this situation happened? And lo and behold, this happened in Baltimore. What a horrific situation that happened. And once again, Baltimore, you are in our thoughts and prayers. And let me just say, shout out to, I want to say it was the mayor. I could be wrong, but it was definitely a leader. So some of the concerns of the people was, as you know, you make a press conference and people start to ask questions. And would you believe that one of the questions or concerns from one of the media representatives was, how long is it going to take for the bridge to be built again? Are you serious right now? Slap. How about the lives that were lost? And the response from the gentleman was stellar. We're not worrying about the cost or the structure of the bridge right now. Our priority is to get bodies out of the water. So once again, this was a crash, and this was by way of a major malfunction. I don't know if an investigation is going to take place, but if they want to do their due diligence correctly, there should be a thorough investigation, because as a sailor who's traveled on large vessels carrying 5,000 people, I'll have to say this: when we go into certain areas, I'll just give the Suez Canal for an example, a very shallow piece and structure of water and body of water. We deploy something called the sea and anchor detail. Yes, there is technology to tell you your width and depth. However, there's nothing like having eyeball tests, and that being individuals on the exterior of the ship with physical binoculars. And I just don't understand when in shallow waters, this vessel wasn't equipped with merchant marines to do that. I do know someone that did serve in the merchant marines, and maybe I'll reach out to them just for questions and stand by. I may have a follow-up for that. But let me keep things moving, because this one right here may be somewhat triggering to some of you out there. I'm going back to the year 2021. Right. We were in probably, I said this last pod, but one of the most psychological and mental places in our lives when it came to our well-being and our mental awareness. And there was also some dodo things going along during that time. And let me just highlight one of them right here, right now. There were 3 men that decided that an individual did not have the right. And this is where things may get somewhat subjective, that this young man did not have the right to jog on a street that looked somewhat public. Whether it was public or private, the street looked accessible. So this individual jogs down the street, not getting into the specifics of the nature. But these 3 men, or 2 men that was in the truck, one following, that videotaped, decided to be law, order, and executioner on the site. And if you don't remember, I'm talking about the case of Ahmaud Arbery. The 3 men that was convicted and found guilty of a federal hate crime have now resurrected this situation. Why? Because they are filing an appeal. Not to have time reduced, but to have the crime totally removed. Let me just set you in a time warp just for a second and go back. These men were not deputized, nor were they law enforcement officers. These men were judge and jury, and I'll say it again, even though it may hurt, executioners on site. Who were they? Travis Michael, Gregory Michael, William Roddy Bryan. And if I haven't said it already, they were convicted of a federal crime and are now doing time. But because of the laws of the land that we have set in place, they can take things through appellate court. And they are filing an appeal to have this crime removed, as if nothing happened that was wrong. So I have to ask, was this malice intent? And this all took place during a time of civil unrest. And yes, I'll have to say their names. Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and then we added a third, Ahmaud Arbery. There were several others, unfortunately, but these three brought a ruckus amongst the community during this specific time. And although this may seem like I'm fishing for clickbait or maybe trying to do something for the sake of viewership, but during this time, could it have been the fact that the tone was set by way of DC through our, at the time, leader of the free world? Could it have been the fact that the divisive nature were charging people to go sick them or to go get them? There were terms like drain the swamp, Proud Boys, stand by, grab them by the vajay, those sons of bees that take knees. What? Let me just say this, right? No matter good, bad, or indifferent, if you have a voice that so-called is righteous and you can make people believable, no matter what the content and subject matter are, you're going to have certain people that believe you. You're going to have certain people that really think you're going to run bell and cape for them. That was no exception during that time, and I think some of us missed it. But now there's a new term, and I'm talking 2024. Now, I can tell you right now, there's not going to be any big bang or there's not going to be any slam dunks with this presidential debate, with this presidential campaign. It's WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get, right? We already know what's coming, and it's almost like buckle up for the hot dumpster fire. But the term that's being used now, an old former President Donald Trump is now looking for cash to pay his bail. And if I'm not mistaken, it's somewhere in the hundreds of $millions. And he only has a percentage of that, but I thought this man was a well-cash carrier and a cash cow. But from what I understand, he's looking for ends to try to meet to help him make bail, and people are bailing out on him, saying, "Oh no, we don't want no sauce, but we're here for the smoke." Let me move on. Some of you may agree or disagree about this divisive nature, but his words exactly, which are leading towards more divisive leadership and violent terminology. This is his forte. This is his niche. He's saying now, oh, there's going to be mega problems if they don't get me in. There's going to be a bloodbath. A bloodbath if you don't get elected.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it.
Now, do you think some of the same individuals that was charged to take matters into their own hands in January 6th of you-know-when, do you not think that people are sitting here writing on their whiteboards at home or their grease boards at home or their steno or legal pads at home going, I too want to be a part of the movement of there will be a bloodbath? You're charging individuals. You're lighting the fire and hiding your hands. That ain't right. And it doesn't take a presidential level to explain that. Here again, we're starting to get divisive and violent terminology that's starting to spark people. You're just being straight out a puppet master. Chill out. But I'll say it again, even for presidents, it's cream, not cash. Clout rules everything. Don't forget, this is the guy that went on Twitter and caused a big storm. And I'll be cute with it. But this may be water under the bridge, but I gotta say, for parents like me that were triggered by this situation, it caused us to have different dialogues with our children and youth. I would prefer that you not go jogging outside right now. You may want to reconsider what you're wearing today. That hood may not be the best form of attire. And for some odd reason, hoods are like security blankets with some of our youth, but yet they've done no wrong. However, we're giving them advice like, that's not a good look, but we know why. Trayvon Martin. It's not being a living in fear factor. However, it is applying logic to what we know. I wouldn't even say new America. I would just say the way the world has turned for the worse. And the sad part of this narrative is there are some that could be listening to this podcast right now that may say he has a bias POV, but I'll have to say the record shows that the outcome for people who look and identify as African American or Black American usually get the short end of the stick. But today, even those that will be lured in to go one way or another, again, I'm not here to sway your vote, but I say this all the time and I'll continue to say it. Have you been to vote.gov? Also, in the same breath, have you registered to vote? Are you a bona fide voter? Do you have your voter's registration card? Make sure you check all 150 boxes that they are requiring for you to vote. And again, I'm not here to sway your vote. But what I am saying is our ancestors fought too hard for us to sit on the couch come elections day. And let me just say this for the cheap seats. It is not specifically, although everyone gets charged up about the presidential elections, please do your research right now, today. After this podcast, please go and verify and hone in and do your research on your local elections. You may have elections coming up in the next 30 days, if I'm not mistaken. Or at least in the state of Georgia, one thing that I can say is some of our local elections are ginning up as we speak. But I'll get back to my point. For some today, it's pretty much 2 to 3 things. It's God, it's that American flag, and it's Donald J. Trump. And this man can do no wrong in some people's eyes. Even though he's fighting a RICO as we speak. Some may remember or know that there is a difference between the separation of church and state. Well, I can tell you former President Donald J. Trump, and again, this could be cream, I don't know, and I'm not talking cash rules, I'm talking clout rules, everything around me. This guy knows how to get the attention of the American people. So I said, there's God, there's that American flag, and then there's Donald J. Trump. Well, that's no exception for what he's doing as a rollout. Check it out.
I'm proud to be partnering with my very good friend, Lee Greenwood. Who doesn't love his song, God Bless the USA, in connection with promoting the God Bless the USA Bible. This Bible is the King James Version and also includes our founding father documents, yes, the Constitution, which I'm fighting for every single day, very hard, to keep Americans protected. Also, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance are all part of this God Bless the USA Bible, and it's just very important and very important to me. All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many. It's my favorite book. It's a lot of people's favorite book. There you have it. Let's make America pray again. God bless you, and God bless the USA.
Yes, it is my understanding, as well as you witnessed, that there is a God Bless the US of A Bible. The good Reverend Donald J. Trump. Speaking of scary things, I mean, this is the same man that did a photo op with the Bible upside down. Am I bugging? Am I bugging? This is the same man that did a photo op with the Bible, his favorite book, as he said, upside down. Speaking of scary things, here's a scary thing that I had to come to grips with, and it actually lifted hairs that I don't have on my arms up. And that is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and I may have one thing that we both agree on. Hold on. And that is this TikTok ban. Let me hone in and be a little bit more specific. Governor Ron DeSantis and lawmakers are trying to change the language that seeks to keep children under 14 off of addictive platforms. That's scary, but I may have to agree. Speaking of scary thoughts, Lord have mercy. This is not something that I'm proud of. I was looking to come and pod about. I'm embarrassed. I'm tucking my tail because, you know, the heDONizm podcast origins were the derivatives of hip hop and how hip hop has transformed some of our lives. And what does hip hop look like 50 years plus? These were some of the bases as to why I created the pod. In addition to, you have to go back to the 0 episode to actually get the foundation of heDONizm podcast and why it exists and some of the passion that lie behind that. I don't want to waste your time today, but it is very significant meaning. But as we think about hip hop and what it looked like 50 years old, what do some of the ingredients of hip hop look like? This is a sad day for me to talk about even the nature and the subject matter of what I'm delivering to you today. The information that I'm speaking of is speculative and somewhat opinionated and is from my pod perspective. Before I get into the details of what I'm about to say, I'd like to reference something that Denzel Washington said as he was being interviewed alongside of his wife. And he said, well, you know, if you do anything too much, too often, you'll get good at it. He said, no longer is the media about being right. The media's portray now is to be first. And I'll double back on what I just said and repeat it. It's not always about being right. It's about being first. Some of your mega 24-hour news channels, cable news channels, went live breaking news with helicopters. Some may know them as ghetto birds, swarming the vicinity. I'm sorry, the shopping mall. No, that's not what it was. It was the estates. Some dope houses. Of that being Sean P. Diddy Combs, also known as Puffy or Puff. But over the course of the week, Puff's houses, or should I say estates, were raided. I want to take you back to another sad fact that we yet again had to learn about. And that was in 2023 with Cassie Ventura. She had reached a lawsuit of alleged abuse. Charges of these assault, and there was violence involved. How did this end? In a settlement. And if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around the corner of 30 M's. That's no short change. That's no short pocket. And I don't want to make light of this situation, but some of you already have. And I got to say, damn it, Dave Chappelle, you're undefeated. Let's just call it what a TI is. Dave Chappelle is undefeated. You were right yet again. You talked about 5 men. Can I be more specific? You talked about 5 black men. Can I be more specific? You talked about 5 black men. And it seems that all of the stories that were told were true. You talked about how one individual loved pancakes and had a crossover for days and loved to hoop, that being Rogers Nelson, aka Prince. Rest in peace. You talked about what the five fingers said to the face. Slap. I'm talking about Charlie Murphy. Rest in peace. As Charlie Murphy went on with his brother, the great Eddie Murphy, to some of the freak-offs or the after parties. Exclusive, invite only, but yet the story was told with so much humor that it had us grabbing our bellies with soreness as we cracked up, laughing, as my alias is, of the late, great Rick James, as I call myself sometimes. Why? Because I'm cold-blooded, no relation to the lifestyle or the persona of Rick James. But Rick James had a hit called Cold-Blooded, and that's what I consider myself to be when it comes to this thing called being a Dante. But you talked about Rick James as the narrative went. What am I, some kid? I ain't gonna be taking no karate classes, kicking somebody. Who does he think I am? He must have lost his mind. Rewind the tape. Yeah, I did it. Rick James. I'm Rick James, Bia. Another sad one. But you talked about Aura. And it was true. And he's fighting cases as we speak. Prince, gone too soon. Charlie Murphy, gone too soon. Rick James, gone too soon. Aura. Little nastiness going on here. But lastly, you did the spoof of making the band with some of the actual members from the band, which gave more validity to the skit and the spoof. But I'll be damned if you wasn't right yet once again. Now, getting back to Puff, there were dozens of agents that ran up on his estates. And from the news media outlets, you thought, he's finito. It's a wrap. You might as well go ahead and delete the songs, put all the Sean Johns at Goodwill, pour the Ciroc down the sink. Let me ask y'all a question. Comment down below. Y'all pouring the Ciroc out? Y'all not buying DeLeon no more? You remember that. I'll get to that in just a second. Let's stay on track. Dozens of agents fell up in the joint. And when you looked at the news media, right, some of you may have said, well, damn, it's a wrap. But did you realize they were not Federal Bureau of Investigation agents? They were HSI, Homeland Security. Whoa. Have you ever seen an invasion by HSI? Did some of you even know what HSI was? I bet you R. Kelly did. I bet you Harvey Weinstein did. Now Puff. I was embarrassed. As a child of hip hop, I was embarrassed. As a person who held Diddy to a high regard. Did Suge try to tell us to come on over to death row? Did we ignore the ministry that Reverend Snoop from B? I'm being silly, but in these situations, you have to laugh to keep from crying because they're dropping like flies to include William Cosby. It was something about the nature of Dr. Huxtable on screen that sold us true fatherhood. Matter of fact, I read his book by Dr. William Cosby, Fatherhood. Believable, coachable, great information. But all alleged dodo situations. Now, when they showed the media of these guys rolling up in SWAT gear to Diddy's estate, I said, it's a wrap. But wouldn't you know, Diddy wasn't even there, but the children were. Hasn't it been alleged or speculated that all of Diddy's businesses and money goes into his mother and children accounts? Didn't I hear that some time ago in the 90s? Didn't Puff say something a while back, and this is allegedly or speculative? Didn't I hear that somewhere? I could be bugging. But you've heard the term before, when there's smoke, there's fire, where the Cassie case and the fact that that lawsuit was settled so fast just prompted a thing that we call in tech terms breadcrumbs. Is this the curiosity that's killing the cat? There are some people, and it's okay if we say we don't have all of the information now. And that's where I would like to go. However, I can't express my disappointment. For as Diddy said, was this a case of us not watching the breadcrumbs? A la in the video with Mace, who's claiming that these are reparations just around the corner, where some other songbirds are saying the time is now. But I'm going to tell you something, folks. This doesn't look good. When you discovered that one of the city girls got her own podcast on Revolt, did you not question it in your head? Did you scratch your head? When you discovered that Carisha and Diddy were dating real bad, did that not cause you to do a shoulder shrug or a scratching of the head?
I'm single, but I'm dating. I'm just taking my time with life.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So what we is?
We date. We dating. We go have dates. We friends.
Okay.
We go to exotic locations. We have great times. We go to strip clubs, church.
Church.
Church. I'm gonna take you to church.
I love that.
Yeah.
When Usher went on Club Shay Shay, and also when he went on Howard Stern, talking about the things that he witnessed a little bit.
I moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you
New
over
York
to something
City.
called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor
some...
Camp?
Yeah,
Flavor
that's what it
Camp.
was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
In the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
No, not really. I
Come
mean,
on.
but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you
I
seeing?
went there to see the lifestyle,
Right.
And I saw it, and it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild. It was,
So nobody
it was
tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place, and I didn't necessarily understand it.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Hell no.
Did that not make you question something? When we think of the alleged marriage between the late, great Aaliyah and R, did we not scratch the head for the breadcrumbs? Is this another case of surviving old boy all over again? I hope not, but folks, this is not looking good. There are some very reputable people that are giving this situation a standing ovation. But there are some people that are silent, which when you think of silence, you think quietness. But I'll be honest with you folks, the silence is extremely noisy. Let this be a reminder to all of you, if you're associated with someone that's doing wrong, I highly advise you find that exit ramp and get off. Mace was on his recent podcast. Shout out to Cam and Mace. It is what it is. Saying that reparation is coming. And you got your boy old 50 Cent, who's doing a doc right now on this Diddy situation. You know, they've been going at it for a hot minute. And Stevie J, park it, brother, sit down. Stevie J's talking about catching a fade with 50 on this Diddy case. Stevie J, do you really want that smoke with 50? With 50? We talking 50. You really want that smoke with 50? Stevie J, you don't need to do this, bro, to be relevant. You don't need to do this. Your past and your history speaks for itself. You got a good body of work with Bad Boy. You don't need to do this. We want to see you doing right. We were a fan of yours up until a certain point. We too old to be out here swinging them things. I mean, it becomes a point where if someone chooses you, then you have no choice but to go no holds bar. But Stevie J, relax. Relax. But again, I talk about the breadcrumbs. Did we not see him with Biggie, with Pac, with Black Rob, with Loom, with Craig Mack, with Shine, with Lil Kim, with Mary J. Blige, with Arbery from Destiny's Kane. Destiny's Kane making the band. Allegations of Puff putting everything in his folks' name does cause a certain alarm. Hence, here in Atlanta, some short time ago, a while ago, but not too long ago, had a restaurant here, the Houstons, y'all remember, over near Benihana's, right? Was called Justin's. And from what I hear, the proceeds from that restaurant was in his child's name. Folks, I hope that this all turns out to be alleged information. But I can tell you right now that some experts are saying once HSI comes in to do a sweep as they did, they pretty much have all the information that they need. And then that's me speculating on some of the experts that I have heard. But it's a sad day for me because even as a DJ, some of the most intricate, extraordinary, outstanding parties that was pumping was based on that Bad Boys era and sound. That being the notorious B.I.G. For those on the East Coast, you know when you heard that Bad Boy sound, how it was a party rocker. I'm not saying it was the best of the best, but I can tell you when you put on a Bad Boy record, the party got started. And I have great memories of those, but now that memory is being tainted by what I know because what I didn't say. And let me say it and let me be very clear. If these allegations are true, Diddy line up. I want to see that perk walk. If these are all speculations and there's no traceability of any of these wrongdoings or any of these allegations, my brother, you may want to take this as a hint that somebody sees you. And you have time to get it right with the folks that you've done wrong to. Damn it, I just promoted his last record. It was fire to me. To me. It gave some of the core essence of what R&B has been missing for a minute. I just promoted it on this pod, and it wasn't an ad. I was just saying, hey, yo, if you want to do a date night with your significant other, or if you're in the mood, you're in the vibe, you're in a hookah mode, or you're in a cigar mode, or you're in a wine and dine mode, put this album on. It's great. And let me say this also to any victims out there that can hear the sound of my voice. You're in my thoughts. You're in my prayers. These allegations of trafficking is disgusting. There is one source that I do pour into when it comes to donations. and that is the Tabitha's house. That's associated with the House of Hope. I've seen work done, and some of their duties are to help women that has transitioned from sex trafficking. I'll put some information in the description of this pod if you would like to donate. A very reputable cause, a very reputable organization. And this is where I have put my money where my mouth is. I hope that this comes out to be not true. And for the individuals who knew of these things, if they are true, and you said nothing, shame on you. It's time out for this whole, that's whack. But how do we handle it from here? DJs, if this is true, you still bumping bad boy records? You bumping more money, more problems? Comment down below. I would love to hear from you. How do we handle this situation? How do we heal from these allegations, and also how we are seeing some of these entertainers' lives unfold? I'll say it like that. But you know what happens when they get involved? You guys want to know who they are? Go back and look at that breaking news feed. That's they. And also, they equals the court of public opinion. Hey, listen, you got two courts. You got the court of law, and you have the court of public opinion. And the court of public opinion, Diddy, is a wrap. The court of public opinion has already reached a verdict. But you do have the court of law. And I would like to say this from a legal perspective. These are civil allegations. Criminal could be in play, but this is where discovery have to come in. And we have to say, at least from a minor league media perspective, that being podcasts and talk and shock talk radio, we don't have all the facts yet. Folks, slow down. You know, I'm not running bail. If he's wrong, we're going to talk about it. But if this is part true, we're going to say, hey, Diddy, maybe you ought to take this time and get yourself right. In addition to that, it's time for you to get right with the people you've wronged. You got time. Even if you did do wrong, you still got time right now with this thing called freedom that you do have. But OMG, this is not looking good. When I kept hearing the ramp up of these cases, I kept saying to myself, nah, we'll just wait. It's like the new iPhone, right? You want to take your time and let the beta versions work out all of the bugs before the revamped versions are dropped. And now they have a new release, a fresh working. You guys get where I'm going. But you got the court of law and you got the court of public opinion. But we're in that age, judged by the court of public opinion. And today, I tried to be as careful as I could, but just in case I made you feel away, these pods are getting tighter and tighter, and I want to use this megaphone to inform, enlighten, and possibly inspire. But you guys know what it is. Don't hold me to it. I'm just here to pod. Until we meet again, guys.